In this video, the youngest captain in the history of the Gotei 13 is going up against the man who built it. Being a prodigy can be troublesome. Toshiro Hitsugaya spent his entire life knowing that his power isn't ready yet. Knowing that he has an incomplete Bankai, he is aware that he needs more time to grow. During the 1000-year Blood War arc, we were teased by seeing the completed form of Daiguren Hyorinmaru as Hitsugaya transformed into his adult state and showed the world what a prodigy at full bloom actually looks like. With his completed Bankai, he was able to freeze Gerard's conceptual abilities mid-swing as he nullified powers that had overwhelmed multiple captains at once. For this brief window within the 1000-year Blood War arc, it seemed as though Adult Hitsugaya could challenge anyone within the Gotei 13. In the other corner, we have head captain Yamamoto, the founder and leader of the Gotei 13 for over 1,000 years, because no Shinigami in the era of Yamamoto was able to take the title of leadership away from him. He wields Ryujin Jaka, the oldest and most powerful fire-type Zanpakuto in the history of the Soul Society, and his Bankai Zanka no Tachi operates at temperatures which match the very core of the sun. Even someone as incredibly talented as Sosuke Aizen openly admitted that fighting Yamamoto's Zanpakuto directly would probably result in his defeat. So what happens when you pit the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto against the strongest fire-type? This video is more than just a elemental-type matchup, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll understand why Adult Hitsugaya versus Yamamoto isn't even close. But you know who does have a extremely powerful elemental type Zanpakuto? All of the individuals who are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos and want to see more, then hit the bell icon and subscribe for even more Bleach content just like this. So this fight is going to take place on neutral ground where neither of the combatants has an environmental advantage and there's no outside interference allowed. It is a pure one-on-one fight. Both characters will enter at their respective peaks that we've seen from the source material. Hitsugaya has access to his complete Daiguren Hyorinmaru, meaning that this is his adult form with the full suite of techniques, and he'll be going up against Yamamoto, who has complete mastery over Zanka no Tachi with all of its 4 directional techniques, along with his Shikai Hakuda Kido and the over 2,000 years worth of refined combat skill which Yamamoto possesses. The win conditions are simple, it's death or complete incapacitation. So we'll start by going over Hitsugaya. He occupies a really interesting position within the roster of Bleach characters. He is the youngest Shinigami to have ever attained the title of captain, and his entire character arc revolves around potential that hasn't been fully realized yet. Genichimaru once called him the embodiment of the heavenly white angel that blesses the Soul Society once a century, and Shunsui stated that within 100 years Hitsugaya would be able to surpass him. These are statements from 2 of the most perceptive and powerful Shinigami in the Soul Society, and they both point towards a ceiling that is frighteningly high. His official battle data from the Bleach bootleg databook scores him at 500 out of 600. For a Shinigami who hasn't even finished growing, those numbers are remarkable. His Zanpakuto Hyorinmaru is explicitly confirmed as the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto in the Soul Society. Even in its Shikai state, Hitsugaya has stated that releasing it carelessly could kill anyone within a 12-kilometer radius. His weather manipulation ability Tensojuren allows him to control atmospheric moisture across the battlefield as he creates storms and blizzards through sheer spiritual pressure. During the Soul Society arc, simply releasing his Shikai affected the weather patterns around him. Now, for most of the series, Hitsugaya fought using an incomplete version of his Bankai. The 12 ice petals that form behind him during the activation of his Bankai were assumed to be a countdown timer, showing us how long his Bankai was able to remain active. Xiaolong Kufang theorized this during the Arrancar arc, suggesting that the Bankai was immature because of Hitsugaya's young age. Now, the Arrancar was half right, because this Bankai was immature, but the petals were counting down to the completion of the Bankai, not its failure. Following the Arrancar arc, Hitsugaya trained for 17 months to strengthen his Bankai to what he called a true Bankai state. Even in his incomplete form, Hitsugaya pulled off some solid feats. He defeated Haribel using Hyoten Hyakuso, a technique that releases snow which blooms ice flowers across the opponent's body, trapping them in a pillar of ice. While he was under Giselle's control, he retained his full physical stats and clashed evenly with Mayuri Kurotsuchi. Then we have his Varavelt appearances, where he stopped a massive chunk of the falling royal palace with his eyes. This is a lifting strength that some have calculated to be at nearly 70 billion metric tons. Now the true conversation with Hitsugaya begins when he activates his completed Bankai. During the fight against Gerard Valkyrie, after Bankai Kimpachi and Byakuya's Zenbonzakura Kageyoshi, and even Hitsugaya's incomplete Bankai had all been overwhelmed, the final petal shattered, and Hitsugaya revealed his final form. His Zanpakuto recognized that a child's body could not safely wield this magnitude of power, so the completed Bankai forcefully ages him into an adult form. When Gerard threw his massive shield, Hitsugaya froze it mid-air with nothing but a raised hand. Gerard then swung Hoffnung, a blade endowed with the power of hope that reflects and amplifies all damage back onto the attacker. Kimpachi barely nicked the blade and was nearly killed by the reflected damage. Hitsugaya cut clean through Hoffnung and nothing happened to him. The sword's conceptual ability stopped functioning because Hitsugaya's ice suppressed it. Anything encased in his completed Bankai's ice loses all functions. This includes physical properties, abstract powers, conceptual abilities, all of it are stripped away. So no matter how special your weapon is, it becomes inert metal, and this is such a broken power to possess. His Shikai Hyoketsu technique requires roughly 4 seconds of concentration, but it freezes all 4 classical elements within the opponent's space, creating an inescapable frozen prison. Hitsugaya was even able to freeze Gerard's holy bow, which was made of pure reishi energy. His mere touch causes instant freezing, a passive effect that turned Gerard's hand to ice the moment that the Sternritter grabbed him. Against most Bleach opponents, this moveset would be virtually unbeatable, but the critical weakness of Adult Hitsugaya is stamina. Maintaining his completed Bankai drains Hitsugaya at a devastating rate. After a short engagement with Gerard, he collapsed as Byakuya caught him and Hitsugaya admitted that he was already at his limit. This form is a burst of overwhelming power with a hard expiration date, and this matters massively in this matchup. When it comes to Yamamoto, he doesn't need any introduction that sells you on his potential. He already is what other Shinigami aspire to become. He founded the Gotei 13 over 1,000 years ago by gathering the most powerful individuals in the Soul Society at the time, which included Yachiru Unohana, the most diabolical criminal in the history of the Soul Society, as he banded this group of ruthless killers to his command. The Bleach databook 13 Blades confirms that Yamamoto surpasses the power of all the captains, and the official Bleach character databook 3 Unmasked states that he is the best in all Shinigami combat arts. His spiritual pressure is classified as immeasurable, the highest tier that the series uses. Fans have noted that Yamamoto doesn't simply use fire. This is a slight misconception, as his Reiatsu is so overwhelmingly powerful that it presents itself as flames. He has stated this himself, and this distinction matters because it speaks to the raw spiritual force behind everything that he does. When he is enraged, his Reiatsu can be felt across the entire Seirei, and it's strong enough to paralyze lieutenant-level Shinigami just by directing his gaze at them. His feats, without even releasing his Zanpakuto, are staggering. He one-shots Aion, a monstrous chimera hollow that had been dominating multiple Shinigami, with a single thrust of his sealed cane. Against Wonderwise, an Aranka specifically engineered by Aizen to neutralize the flames of Ryujinjaka, Yamamoto resorted to Hakuda and obliterated the Aranka through raw physical strikes alone. His Ikotsu put a hole through Wonderwise's chest with a single punch. Sokotsu, a two-fisted strike, shattered the Aranka's entire body. He then contained the resulting explosion, which was powerful enough to incinerate all of Karakura town and the surrounding area, and he did this largely with his own body. Then during the 1000 Year Blood War arc, a single direct Shikai slash from Ryujinjaka was enough to strip the flesh from the bones of the Sternritter Driscoll Bercy and completely incinerate him. He also simultaneously blasted away Bazbi, Nanana and Aznot without breaking a sweat. The flames of his Shikai are hot enough to scorch the sky and consume clouds. His technique Jogaku Enjo trapped Aizen, Gin and Tozen inside a wall of flame for a considerable period of time, and unlike most Zanpakuto, resealing Ryujinjaka does not deactivate abilities that have been cast. His Ennetsu Jigoku creates massive pillars of fire capable of incinerating an area much greater than Karakura Town. Then we finally come to Zanka no Tachi, Yamamoto's Bankai, which compresses all of Ryujinjaka's flames into the blade, and it operates through 4 directional techniques that each represent a distinct pathway to victory. Zanka no Tachi East concentrates the intense flames along the tip of the blade, and anything that it touches is eradicated from existence. Even the Quincy's Blut Veen could not withstand it. Zanka no Tachi West engulfs Yamamoto's body in invisible heat reaching 15 million degrees Celsius, the temperature of the core of the sun. This makes physical contact with him impossible. When Yobak tried to attack with a reishi sword, the sword was vaporized before it could connect. Zanka no Tachi's South allows Yamamoto to summon the corpses of everyone that he has ever killed with his Zanpakuto, forming an undead army numbering proportionally in the trillions. He is also able to specifically choose which corpses to raise from the dead for maximum psychological effect on his opponent. Zanka no Tachi North is a concentrated slash that incinerates everything in its path out of existence, the technique that he used to destroy Royd Lloyd's left arm and torso. Unohana stated that if Zanka no Tachi remained active for too long, it would incinerate the entirety of the Soul Society. Yobak himself stated that he was the only person in the Quincy army who would be able to handle Yamamoto's Bankai, implying that Zanka no Tachi surpassed every Sternritter, and just beyond his Zanpakuto, Yamamoto is a Kido master of the highest order. He is capable of casting spells up to the 90s without incantation. His Inemuri puts opponents to sleep instantly. His Hado 96 Itokaso creates a blade of fire capable of tearing holes in space-time. Now let's have a look at each of their abilities, as there's been a lot of debate, as the central argument from the Hitsugaya fans is that his completed Bankai freezes concepts, so it suspends the function of Hofnung's Hope ability. His Shikai Hyoketsu freezes all 4 classical elements including fire, so the natural question becomes, why can't Hitsugaya just freeze Yamamoto's flames? While it's true Hitsugaya froze the miracle, a conceptual ability, and that this should theoretically work against fire, Adult Hitsugaya's Bankai halts molecular motion entirely, which on a physics level overcomes any form of heat. But the manga provides direct evidence against this before we even reach this level of speculation. During the 1000-year Blood War arc, when Yamamoto activated Zanka no Tachi, the heat generated as a side effect depleted all of the moisture across the Serite. In chapter 507, it's explicitly stated that Hitsugaya's Bankai Daiguren Yorenmaru cannot be used because its ice melts due to the intense heat. Hitsugaya himself confirmed this when he told Kangdu that activating his Bankai has become impossible because all the moisture in the surrounding atmosphere had evaporated. Now you're right to point out that this applies to his incomplete Bankai, not his completed adult form, but when it comes to the established power system of Bleach, it runs on spiritual pressure differentials. When Soifon used Suzume Bachi against Aizen, a Shikai that guarantees death with 2 strikes to the same location, it didn't work because the gap in their spiritual pressure was too vast. Abilities in Bleach don't work if your opponent has vastly superior spiritual pressure. Ryujinjaka isn't just the strongest Zanpakuto because its abilities are the most powerful on paper. It's the strongest because of Yamamoto's ridiculously powerful spiritual energy. Hitsugaya froze Gerard's conceptual abilities because his Reiatsu in his adult form was sufficient to affect Gerard. There is no established evidence that he can do the same to someone whose spiritual pressure eclipses his own by orders of magnitude. In terms of physical combat, Yamamoto holds a commanding advantage in raw physical ability. His Wonderwise feats alone demonstrate a level of physical power that Hitsugaya has never shown in any form. He was also shown outpacing both Shunsui and Ukitake at the same time, arriving at their destination before either captain even noticed that he moved. These are 2 of the fastest captains in the history of the Soul Society, and not even they could track him. The combat advantages of Hitsugaya's adult form form come mainly from the speed and precision of his freezing, which supplements his swordplay rather than from brute strength. He flash throws Gerard's shield with a gesture and slice through Hoffnung, but those feats are products of his ice mechanics. In terms of technique, Yamamoto has mastered every Shinigami combat discipline. His Zanjutsu skill surpasses individuals like Unohana, who knew over 8,000 different sword styles. Hitsugaya is a prodigy swordsman capable of fighting opponents far more experienced than himself, and his combat style has proven effective against powerful enemies, but the gap in overall martial skill between a prodigy with decades of experience and a grandmaster with over a millennia is a huge difference. In terms of intelligence and strategy, Yamamoto has over 2 millennia of experience as a warrior, teacher, and supreme military commander. He predicted Aizen's early attack and devised the fake Karakura Town strategy. He set traps for Aizen while the traitor was focused on other threats. He recognized the spiritual pressure of a Zanpakuto impaling him, inadvertently foreshadowing the weakness of Kyoka Suigetsu. As the founder and former teacher of the Shinigami Academy, he has the deepest well of accumulated combat knowledge in all of BLEACH. Hitsugaya is classified as a genius in the databooks. He was the first to suspect Ichimaru of treason, and he sensed something wrong with Rukia's execution before anyone else had caught on. Hitsugaya graduated from the Shinigami Academy in a single year with the highest scores in every class. His battlefield instincts have kept him alive against opponents who should have killed him, but against someone with literally thousands of years of tactical knowledge, the experience deficit becomes a factor that intelligence alone cannot compensate for. Yamamoto's durability borders on absurd. He took an onslaught from Wonderwise's multiple arms twice and walked away with scratches. He survived being impaled by Aizen without flinching. In his younger years, he challenged Shojiro Sasakibe to strike him with his newly achieved Bankai, and he received only a light scar on the forehead. Even after being cut in half by Yuhobak, he remained conscious. His endurance allows him to fight for extended periods, even when he is outnumbered with no visible signs of exhaustion. Hitsugaya in his adult form took hits from bull-standing Gerard and continued fighting. This speaks to the power of the transformation given Gerard's overwhelming strength at that stage, but the stamina gap that I covered earlier in the video is the decisive factor here. If Yamamoto forces a longer engagement, and he has every reason and ability to do so, Hitsugaya loses his transformation while Yamamoto is still fresh with his abilities. We now move on to discussing the clash potential between Zanka no Tachi and the completed Daigoren Hyorin Maru. Hitsugaya's completed Bankai requires the 12 ice petals to fully dissipate before his adult form manifests. This is a gradual process that occurs over the course of active Bankai usage. Yamamoto's Bankai activates immediately upon release. As I've already covered, the moment Zanka no Tachi is active, the surrounding moisture starts to quickly vanish. Hitsugaya cannot simply enter his adult form on command. He needs time in his incomplete Bankai state first, and during that build-up period, Yamamoto's heat would have already been dismantling his ability to sustain the ice constructs of his Bankai. There is a real scenario where Hitsugaya never reaches his completed form because the battlefield conditions prevent it from happening. Even if you were to go as far as to say that Hitsugaya starts the fight in his adult form, the matchup still skews heavily. Zanka no Tachi East erases things from existence. This is an important distinction from burning or destroying. Whatever the blade touches ceases to be. Ice provides no counter to something that no longer exists, and Zanka no Tachi West's invisible heat armor creates a zone where approaching Yamamoto means being vaporized. This directly negates Hitsugaya's passive contact freezing, since Hitsugaya would need to survive getting close enough to touch his opponent. Even if you assume that both Bankai are perfectly neutralizing each other's elemental advantages, the fight becomes more on pure swordsmanship. And in swordsmanship between Hitsugaya and Yamamoto, the old man wins this no contest. There's a point that doesn't get discussed often. Hitsugaya has shown time and time again that he is useless without his Bankai. bankai. It is really harsh, but the truth speaks for itself. His combat ability without bankai drops dramatically compared to other captains who remain dangerous in Shikai or even in their base state. Yamamoto, by contrast, one-shots Ion with his sealed Zanpakuto, and he destroyed Wonderwise with nothing but his fists. He blasted away 3 Sternritter at the same time with a casual Shikai slash. The floor of Yamamoto's combat ability is higher than the ceiling of Hitsugaya's Shikai. There's also a psychological dimension that's worth considering. Yamamoto commanded the original Gotei 13, a group that was so brutal that they were feared across all dimensions. He has fought wars and ended eras and buried countless opponents over his many years of history. Hitsugaya has the composure of a captain and the intelligence to analyze opponents mid-fight, but he has never faced anyone with Yamamoto's weight of presence, and this is the kind of aura that Hitsugaya would be walking into. Here's how I see this fight unfolding. Hitsugaya activates his bankai immediately, knowing his only chance is to reach his completed form as fast as possible. He needs those 12 petals to fall, but Yamamoto isn't going to wait around for that. He already assumes that Hitsugaya's bankai is building towards something. He'd open with Ryujin Jaka's Shikai, and the heat alone starts eating away at the atmospheric moisture, weakening Hitsugaya's ice constructs before they can fully form. Even if Hitsugaya stalls long enough for his adult form to activate, he'd need to land Shikai Hyoketsu or his contact freezing before Yamamoto escalates the fight. But Yamamoto isn't Gerard. He's not going to just stand there and tank an ability. He has seen every type of combat that the Soul Society has produced over 1,000 years. The moment Yamamoto activates Zankai no Tachi, it's frankly over. The atmosphere dries out entirely, Hitsugaya's ice destabilizes. Because the moisture feeding it is gone, Zankai no Tachi West wraps Yamamoto in invisible 15 million degree armor, meaning Hitsugaya can't get close enough to use his passive freezing without being vaporized. And if Yamamoto swings Zankai no Tachi east, whatever it touches is erased from existence. There's no freezing your way out of something that doesn't exist anymore. Even in the most generous scenario where Hitsugaya enters already in his adult form, his stamina is ticking down every second, while Yamamoto, who has survived being impaled, exploded, and cut in half, he can simply wait for Hitsugaya's stamina to run out. So yeah, no matter how you look at this fight, the paths to victory for Hitsugaya all require a sequence of miraculous perfect events that Yamamoto's experience and versatility would prevent from ever happening. I did run a community poll for this fight on the channel. We had over 15,000 votes. 91% thought that Yamamoto would win, and 9% thought that Adult Hitsugaya would win. I personally believe that Yamamoto would claim victory in 95% of scenarios. His bankai's 4 directional systems provide him with multiple win conditions in any given scenario. His experience ensures that he is always making the right move at the right time. The ultimate decider for this fight is Yamamoto's heat armor, which counters Hitsugaya's contact-based freezing, as well as the environmental effects of Zankai no Tachi, which shake the very foundation of Hitsugaya's power before the fight even begins. The 9% of you who thought that Hitsugaya would win are not totally crazy, as they see the concept of nullification and recognize that he does possess something special. In an isolated vacuum, his ability sounds like it should beat fire, but Bleach never operates in a vacuum. Spiritual pressure underpins everything, and Yamamoto has immeasurable amounts that holds every advantage in his favor. So we have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Do you think there's a scenario where Adult Hitsugaya is able to overcome Zankai no Tachi's environmental effects and land his concept freezing ice on Yamamoto? Do you believe that the Reiatsu gap would negate Hitsugaya's abilities entirely, or could his completed bankai push through it? And where do you stand on the future version of Hitsugaya? Do you think that a fully matured Toshiro with centuries of experience could eventually take this fight? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention that could turn the tide of this battle, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.